Well, that just showed you what this UCF team could potentially be after UCF beats UNC 34-9. And honestly, a game that UCF really dominated from start to finish. We're going to get all of it right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. As always, we're sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, we told you all the lines going into this game. And if you knew that UCF was going to dominate this game, you probably made a lot of money on FanDuel. They have the best lines anywhere. If you want to bet this college football season or NFL season, use FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today was fun. Today was a fun night. It's an early night. It's 9:56 when I'm recording this. I know usually when we do these post-game shows, it is 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, but a 3:30 game means that I get to go to bed at a reasonable hour, maybe get to watch a show. It's fun. It's a great night, and especially great after UCF honestly just looked far superior than the North Carolina Tar Heels. We said going into this game that we really don't know how good UCF is. I was on record, and I felt bad. I'm not going to lie. Also, I look... If you're watching the video version, this just looks very sweaty and weird. But I'm good with it. We're fine. We said that UCF, we don't know how good they are. But I had a very good vibe on how good UNC was. I said, I don't think they're a very good football team. I think their offense is one of the worst in the country. I said all those things. But I said, we don't know how good UCF is. UCF could be just as bad. We don't actually know. So this is a good test of two teams that are very similar. I recant that statement. They are not similar. UCF is the far superior and better team. They proved that. They proved it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about who was the better team. It wasn't really close at all. I think North Carolina had one good drive, and that was in the second half, when UCF basically was just letting them do whatever they wanted to on the ground, because they're like, okay, you just want to keep running 2-3 yards every time? Fine by us. Keep that clock running. Started off early with if I knew how many plays, a 13-play, 75-yard drive that took 6 minutes and 37 seconds that ended in a Taven Jackson 13-yard run. And really, ever since there, UCF went up 7-0. And I don't want to get it twisted. I said in my tweet, I tweeted out after that, and I said the UCF defense is going to have to be, it's going to have to be heightened, because UNC is probably, in terms of their offense, one of the worst offenses in the country, but on the first drive, they're one of the best offenses in the country. I think they've scored a touchdown on basically every first drive. I might be wrong on that, but it feels like on the first drive, UNC is one of the best teams in the country. It's the second, third, fourth, and fifth drive that UNC struggles. And honestly, UCF scores on their first drive. They get the ball first, they score. What does UNC do? Picked off. Technically twice. The first one got called back, as it should have. Jumped off sides. And then, boom, next play, Horace Lockett hits it, goes right in the hands of Nigel Kelly. Now, UCF scored a field goal on that drive that when they got the ball. But it wasn't necessarily about the field goal, that drive. It wasn't necessarily about anything. It was all about the vibe around the teams. You could tell UCF had all the vibes. UCF looked like the more dominant team the minute they stepped up on the field. The minute the offense went onto the field, they were clicking. They were clicking on all cylinders. They were doing their little short intermediate throws. They weren't going and throwing it deep. They weren't taking what the defense wasn't giving them. They looked really good. We'll get to Taven in a second, but Taven looked really good. Then you go to the defense, and the defense was getting after it. They were running to the football. Every single guy was running to the football. Really, Gio Lopez couldn't do anything. And Gio Lopez, in my opinion, is just not that good. And I feel I'm really upset that he got injured, and I hope he's okay. It didn't look good. He really couldn't put any weight on his right foot, and that sucks. Obviously, you don't want to see anybody get hurt. But Gio Lopez was struggling. He's been struggling the first 3 games of the season. He struggled today. It looks a step slow. But even when he started running, you didn't feel like UCF couldn't get to him. UCF was flying to the ball. If you look at the stats, the team stats, they allowed 217 total yards for UNC. Only 63 rush yards, which is an improvement. I was very pleased with the run defense. Obviously, in that long, what's the one drive that UNC got a touchdown? It was a 19-play, 80-yard drive that took 8 minutes and 40 seconds off of the clock. Now that they didn't really stop the run very well. But what I'll say is it wasn't like they were getting 5 to 6 yards a carry. They were getting like 2 to 3 yards a carry, which they would pick up the first down on 4th and 1, 4th and 2, right? But the defense was stout early. They really got away from running the football early, the Tar Heels did, because UCF was stopping it immediately. In the first half, UNC could not run the football. They ended with 25 carries for 63 yards. And then the quarterback play. They had 154 passing yards. Again, Gio Lopez was 11 of 14 for 87 yards and 2 interceptions. Johnson was 11 of 19 for 67 yards and a touchdown. UCF's defense was flying. And I think we do have to not go and say, is this defense legit? Because I think, again, opponent matters. They took the test. They beat up on a bad football team, a bad Power 4 football team. But that still matters. That still matters because you didn't look at the defense saying, if they played a good team, they're going to get smacked and moved around. You didn't feel that way. You said this defense might actually be decent and potentially really good. The coverage, we talked about the coverage on the postgame show. The coverage was immaculate. The defensive backs, the secondary, it's giving quarterbacks some time to think. They're not really just being able to gradually throw the ball. There's not really that many guys open, if any. So that's where it becomes difficult. And then when you have the coverage that good, it helps the defensive line. Another 2 sacks today, 2 interceptions, a couple or 3 tackles for loss or 4 tackles for loss. The defense was flying around. I think you could feel really, really good about the defense moving forward in case your offense struggles. But let's talk about the offense. Taven Jackson, guy that everybody assumed was going to be the starting quarterback. He was kind of the guy that Scott Frost and Mackenzie Milton wanted to be the starter. When they signed him, that was the assumption. We're going to pay this man to be the starter for our team this season. But to their credit, they had a quarterback competition. It went out through spring, went out through fall, and Cam Fancher came out quarterback 1. And people were like, how did Taven Jackson not win it? Me saying that. I saw all of the quarterbacks throw. And I said, Taven Jackson is the best quarterback on the roster. Taven finally cares. Taven, I think, not winning the job. I think there was an assumption that Taven just assumed he was going to win the job because he knew he was the best quarterback on the roster. And then the minute he didn't get that quarterback 1 job, he woke up. And boy, did he have a game today. 25 of 32 for 223 yards and a touchdown, and ran it 10 times for 66 yards and a touchdown. That right there, my friends, is efficient quarterback play. And we counted it. Out of the 32 throws, I think there was 3 bad ones. There was 3 that we were like, those didn't look that good. Besides that, let me just say, the short passing game from Taven Jackson is as good as it can be. As good as it can be. And again, just like I say about the defense playing a really bad North Carolina offense, you can make the same case for the North Carolina defense. They are improved. They are the better of the 2 position groups on North Carolina. But at the same time, you still had to go out and execute. And if you look at Taven Jackson and you go rewatch this game, we always say, stats don't tell you the full story. You actually have to go watch the game. Taven Jackson looked like quarterback 1. He looked like one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. Again, it's against UNC. But He just solidified himself. He was already solidified. We always felt before the season he should have been quarterback one. Then when he got in at the end of Jack State, second half or whatever, whenever the game, that game was weird. Whenever he got in, he played better than Cam in his time. And then against North Carolina A&T, though it wasn't perfect, we felt the momentum was on his side. He deserves to be quarterback one. This solidifies that. Moving forward, Taven Jackson is your quarterback one for UCF, and I don't think it's changing much. I don't think it will. I think getting Jakari those snaps and getting him involved, I loved it. I think they used him in the perfect scenarios, and it wasn't just for a straight run, even though he did run the ball every single time. They kept him in for maybe 2 plays at a time. And I think even Scott Frost mentioned after the game how Jakari wants to throw the ball and prove that he can throw it, and Taven wants to run it because he wants to prove that he can run it. I love that. Because one of my, points is I want to see Jakari throw the football. I know that's crazy, but I do. I think it's going to catch the defense off guard. UNC was prepared. They knew that when Jakari Brown came in, they were going to run the football. But guess what? They couldn't really stop it. He got 5 yards carry almost every time, even more. So they were prepared for that. So I think Taven Jackson played exceptional. I think the offensive line played really well. Offensive line-wise, the pass blocking, really good. Like, the pass blocking legitimately is exceptional. No sacks. Taven was not sacked. He should have been sacked the one time, somehow got out of it. He said in the postgame press conference that guy just let him go. But for the most part, the pass blocking was exceptional. To have 32 dropbacks and to not be sacked once does matter. The run blocking is a problem. We're not going to sit here and lie about it, and we're not going to sugarcoat it. Obviously, this is a positive podcast. We're not trying to be negative Nancy's here. UCF did run it 34 times for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. But when you actually go down and look, out of the 143 yards, 66 yards came from the Taven Jackson, which was mostly pulling the ball and running. And let's be real here, UNC did not know he pulled it. Every time Taven ran for a long time, they thought the running back had the ball. And Taven, to his credit, made the right decision and did it without the defense really knowing he did it. And then Jakari Brown ran 4 times for 31 yards. Besides that, Miles Montgomery, 12 carries for 35 yards, finally got his first touchdown on the season. Jaden Nixon, 5 carries, 10 yards, and a touchdown. And then Dwayne Thomas had 2 carries for 3 yards. That's kind of the point where there are 2 things that you can start to kind of feel nervous about. We came into it like 3. One of them was I'm like, we should be nervous about the rushing defense a little bit. It got a little leaky. I think not to put that completely away, but they proved today that wasn't an issue, right? The run blocking is a problem. You see Miles Montgomery, and you could see when they show the replays and stuff like that, there is no hole to run through. We were joking in the press box in the second half. There was finally like a hole, and we got like a 5-yard rush. And we're like, he only got 5 yards there, but that was the biggest hole he had all day. Because legitimately, there's not a lot of holes that we have seen that the offensive line is creating for the running backs. And that, for a guy like Jaden Nixon, again, like, he's not really a north to south. You got to get him in space, but there wasn't really much space. And then, like, with Miles, it's tough sledding. It is tough sledding for Miles. They were doing a good job really bottling him up. And I think if UCF wants to be, a bowl team and get a couple extra wins, you have to be able to run the football a little bit better. You don't need to be perfect. Like, obviously, I think fans are just so used to the Gus Malzahn offense where we could run the ball easily. It's the passing offense that struggled, right? And I think a lot of people are now kind of getting used to the new idea of, we might be just now a passing team again. Which is true. But Scott Frost's offenses are predicated on being able to run the football with multiple different backs and getting chunk plays by getting the ball on the ground. And again, I think the offense, I know a lot of people want to poo-poo on it, and I'm going to poo-poo on it, like, it needs to be better. But again, I think the pass blocking is so good that it makes me confused why the run blocking isn't as good. Like, the pass blocking is really good. They also, again, switched out the guards again. And I want to ask Scott about that tomorrow. Hey, are we just going to continue doing that? Because the guards didn't play, I think, the entire second half. And I get to keep them fresh and all that, and you feel like you have good enough depth at that position. But with the offensive line, it's just so crucial that you want to play the same 5 guys. And maybe he's doing it different. He clearly is, and I think we can accept that as long as there's not too much of a drop off, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Clearly, we're not noticing it too much because the run blocking is kind of the same and the pass blocking is basically the same. So that's something that definitely needs to get cleaned up, the run blocking. And then penalties. The penalties were another negative today. Now, the penalties were all operational kind of penalties, right? At the end of the day, it's a false start here. It's a offside here. Those you can work with and you can continue improving on. Those are things that you aren't going to the sideline. Like, yes, it's like a bonehead, what are we doing? But it's not a defensive pass interference. You're not seeing holds. You're not seeing things that would cause you concern moving forward. Like, at the end of the day, UCF had 7 penalties for 40 yards. North Carolina had 5 penalties for 50 yards. Their penalties mattered way more. They had more penalty yards than we did. We just need to limit the number of penalties. So I think those are 2 things. The penalties have been high. That's a cause for concern. You need to shore that up. And I think Scott Frost and staff know that. And it's not going to be perfect. You also have to understand it's not going to be perfect. But to come out and do the performance that you did while not playing a perfect game, almost, but not playing a perfect game, shows you everything you need to know about this team. Let's talk about some of the receivers a little bit. Dylan Wade, 5 receptions for 47 yards, hurt his shoulder. I guess he had a minor shoulder separation or whatever. Scott Frost said he should be good. He could have went back out there. But they played. Oh, that's another thing. Guys, they played like 4 tight ends. They played like 4. They played Kylan. They played Dylan. They played Max Drag. They played Caden Pining. He started. Caden Pining was the first tight end out there. I think they played Wadsworth. So you got like 5 tight ends out there. And that's the thing that I like about this offense and what Scott Frost is doing. I originally, they were huddling, especially on the first drive. They huddled every time. And I'm like, I want to see the explosive Frost offense. I want to see no huddle. I want to see let's go. They're huddling every time. They're making substitutions every time. And not just like Gus subs that we had last year. We're like, why are you subbing one player that is not going to really matter on this play? They're subbing out a tight end every time for a new tight end. They're subbing out receivers for new receivers. They're subbing out guys almost every single time, and it matters. Because honestly, it throws the defense off guard. You can't, that's the thing. Teams can study UCF and be like, oh, when this player's out here, when they're in this formation, we can now play this defense because this is probably what they're going to run. UCF is switching it up every time where you genuinely don't know what they're going to run because you don't know when Caden Pining is in, okay, maybe they're going to run the ball, but maybe it's a play action. It is good for the future because it's going to be harder to study UCF when you're switching out formation and switching out players every single time. I think it's really smart, and I think it threw them off today. I think it threw North Carolina off today was kind of some of the stuff that UCF was doing. Red zone. Let's talk about red zone. And this is something that I think moving forward, you could feel really good about. They were 6 for 6 in the red zone today. 6 for 6. That is massive. That means when they got there, they scored points. And it didn't necessarily need to be touchdowns, but you put up points. And I think North Carolina came in, for all their shortcomings, they were a good team in the red zone. They did not allow teams to score down there. Even TCU was 3 for 5. So that is something you can look at and say UCF moving forward can be pretty good. I'm going everywhere. Going back to the receivers. Dwayne Thomas, he had 5 receptions for 31 yards on all 5 targets. I really like how they're using him. They're sending him in motion constantly, and it's not just a regular motion that way. He's going around the quarterback. He's going everywhere to throw the defense off. Jaden Nixon, even though he didn't have a big day on the ground, he had a nice day on, catching the ball. 4 catches for 41 yards. DJ Black, 3 catches for 19 yards. He had 4 targets. He had a drop as well. Marcus Burke, 2 receptions, 35 yards. He had a big catch, that really tough catch on the first drive. He got hit hard. He knew he was going to get hit. And that was kind of a huge play. I think, again, that gave UCF some confidence, especially on that drive. Kylan Fox got his first career touchdown. He had 2 receptions for 28 yards. Wayne Charles had that one drop at the end. He had 1 reception for 6 yards, and then Chris Domerkamp, 1 reception for 15 yards. When you go down the list, again, what's different about this offense? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different receivers caught a pass today. 9. Again, I think that's where you look at this offense and you say, okay, number one, scheme-wise. Number two, I think when you look at it from a perspective of trying to study UCF and, okay, who's wide receiver 1? Who's wide receiver 2? Yes, like you have DJ Black, you have Dwayne Thomas. You don't know on any given Saturday who will be the guy because this offense is so predicated on getting different people the ball, whoever's open, running the right route. Like, this offense can be really good. Is it perfect? No. They need to improve. They need to continue improving. But I think playing some of these teams and getting so many guys involved really makes it tougher on defenses to really hone in on a specific player or personnel group. Like, UCF kept really the same personnel all of last year. You had the same receivers out there for the most part. You knew who the running back was. This year, it's different. You have so many different guys that are out there that can catch a pass that you can't really pinpoint specific guys. You can't say DJ Black's just going to get the ball. DJ Black had 3 receptions for 19 yards on 4 targets. Dylan Wade had 7 targets today. So I think that's where you kind of look and you say this offense has the potential to be lethal and dangerous because you don't know exactly who can go off any game. And that's when your team can be at its best. Let's talk about the defense a little bit before we go. Lewis Carter. He had a game. And you could see it. He was everywhere. 10 total tackles, 6 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hurry. He was everywhere. Lewis Carter had a great game. Didn't play in the last game because he got, the targeting call, and then he was supposed to be suspended for the first half of the last game, but he didn't end up playing the entire game because the game was out of reach. They didn't want to put him in harm's way, which is smart on their part, and he had a game. You kind of can see how lethal he can be. And then also Cole Kozlowski played a good game. He had 4 tackles. He's been really good. Nigel Kelly obviously had the interception. The quarterback hit. How many quarterback hurries? They had 5 quarterback hurries, 2 interceptions, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Guys were flying. And Malachi was quiet. He had 1 quarterback hurry, and he had no tackles. But I liked Malachi's game. He kind of was flying to the ball. I liked Malachi. He was pushing people. Rodney Lura, obviously playing his former team, had 2 tackles and 1 solo tackle. Horace Lockett, again, he had a pass breakup, which caused the interception. He was huge. Braden Marshall got an interception. I just like this defense, man. I like the defense. And again, a guy like Antoine Jackson, he had a tackle for loss. He had 4 solo tackles. And guess what? You didn't really have to call his name that much. Why? I don't know. Because the DBs are playing lights out. It's hard to throw the ball against this team. And I think that's what's good. And then when you look at if you look at the North Carolina defense, quarterback hurries, 0. That's where, again, you can talk badly about the offensive line, say the offensive line needs to run block better. That's a fact. They do. But there was 0 quarterback hurries. Every time Taven dropped back, he didn't feel like he was getting really any pressure. And that's a good thing. And that's where you kind of look at this UCF team and you say, man, are they good? Jury's still out. But with that being said, you have a game next week. We're going to get into Kansas State this week. Kansas State, struggling, but it's a tough place to play. Just like I said, UNC coming to Orlando, this is their first real road test. How would they respond? How is UNC going to play on the road for the first time? They struggled. How is UCF going to respond going to Manhattan, to play a struggling Kansas State team that's coming off of a bye week? just like UCF came off a bye week this past week. Now, granted, we also see it's not a perfect science. Oklahoma State came off of a bye week and lost to Tulsa. So bye weeks can matter, but they also can't matter. It can help you clean up some stuff, or it can do nothing, as we've known in years past. But I think if UCF can continue taking steps, and I think Scott Frost will be the first one to tell you, he says, and I literally knew he was going to say it the minute they were asking him about getting this win. UCF, to his point and what he said, they haven't done anything yet. They haven't. They haven't beaten necessarily a good team. They haven't went to a Big 12 title game. They haven't beat a ranked opponent. They haven't beat a lot of things they haven't done. They haven't done anything. But again, if you kind of win the games, if your defense plays lights out against the bad teams, then it'll be interesting to see how you play against the good teams. You could only beat the teams that are on your schedule, so you can't fault them. You had North Carolina, and North Carolina is just a bad football team. You beat Bill Belichick. Even though listen, I love Bill, but this team's not it right now. It's going to take a little time. But I think this team, with how much better they are getting from week to week that we've seen, the offense from week 1 to now, drastically better. The defense from week 1 to now has looked pretty consistent. And they've shored up some of the things they needed to clean up. Field goal kicking. Great. No issues today. I think all of that put together, you're just trying to get better each given week. And I think UCF is doing that. And I think when you then look at the schedule, though you don't want to start giving UCF wins because you can't do that, a bowl game is in sight, potentially. Because I think they can get better and they can win some of these games, especially at home, that kind of set UCF up in a good position moving forward. And it started today against North Carolina to go 3-0, and then you start conference play next week against a Kansas State team that probably is going to be desperate to get back on track and get a win at home. But we will get into all of that next week. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. What did you think of the performance? Rate it. Give me a rating. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you're seeing that still needs to be improved on. Let me know down in the comments below. And again, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, you have to keep looking at FanDuel. They've got great lines, especially for UCF. They had it. They had UCF at -7.5. I thought they were crazy. Nick technically had it. Nick had it 31-20. It was a blowout. They had something. They knew it. We did it. The UCF came to play and was way better than the Tar Heels. So use FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly appreciate it. This has been Charge On. UCF is 3-0 after a 34-9 win, and now they move on to Kansas State. This has been Charge On, presented by FanDuel. We will see you next week.